Miniature Market has thousands of board games at discounted prices. Click the direct link below for Star Wars Unlimited or any other game. Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today we're going to be taking a look at Star Wars Unlimited, which is the latest sort of collectible card game from Fantasy Flight. This obviously is in the world of Star Wars. You're going to be messing with ground troops and space troops and leaders and events and upgrades. And I'm going to show you how to play with the starter decks. I've done another video showing you some of the extra components and mats you can get, as well as opening 4 booster packs and then talking about what are the different ways you can use the booster packs, whether it's constructing decks, whether it's drafting, whether it's sealed drafts. I talked about how you do those, and if you want to see that video, you can click the link below. But for now, let's show you at a high level how you play the game, and I'll see you on the other side for my final thoughts. Now, the base game here, the 2-player startup kit, comes in this sort of mass market box that doesn't really reclose. And in that box, there are some deck holders, and so you have one for each of the sides. The game does have asymmetric play, 2 asymmetric decks that are unique to each other that you could play against, and both of them have more than 50 cards, so they have a deck that you could 2 players can just play right away with without any deck building. Now they do sell additional add-on sort of decks or deck holders that are a lot sturdier. Some of them have some nice artwork on them. Some of them are a little bit more more classic looking. Some of them have nice art. Now what this has in here is enough to hold a 60 card deck double sleeved and a box here for tokens. Because the starter kit comes with these damage tokens like this, and it comes with sort of token upgrades, which are essentially you slide these underneath and it gives what it does. So it's like a +1/+1. This is cool because they slide under and it tells you what they do. Or they do have premium tokens, and these tokens are sort of acrylic. They help you track, pluses and minuses and attacks and damage and all sorts of the other things. And it comes in a nice bag like this that you can upgrade if you want. Now the starter kit does come with a paper mat that has sort of a poster on one side. We got Luke there. And on the other side it has sort of a mat where you're going to be using your deck, your discard pile, your resources, your leader, your base, where to put all your units. Has round structure and keyword reference, little things. So a beginner can play with this. It helps them orient themselves and see all the different rules and things like that. Now here is the other paper mat for the other player. That's what it looks like. The backside, it functions the same as the other one I showed you. Now there are small game mats that you could purchase separately. This one's about 24 inches by 13 3/4. Now it's mostly used for art and obviously picking up the cards and having a nice mat, but it won't help you functionality wise, so you'd use this if you knew the game really well. They also have an extra large 27.5 by 27.5 mat, perfect for 2 players. That also, it's got a little space background, but it also, again, has all the functionality of where you put it. Doesn't have the keywords there, so you might want to have your rules reference next to you. But once you've played it a few times, you'll know all the keywords. All right, so we have the setup. We have the leaders here, and we have the base. That's what you're going to have to start the game there. Now, the base is going to have, in this case, 30 hit points. And to win, you're simply going to reduce the amount of hit points to 0. Whoever does that first wins the game. Now, each player gets to shuffle their deck. They'll draw 6 cards. You can mulligan once like most TCGs, but then you're going to place 2 of those 4 cards down here. These are resources. So essentially, these cards are not in your hand anymore. You're kind of putting them down. You're going to be using these as currency to pay for cards. The game is played over multiple rounds until that happens. And in a round, you're going to be going back and forth with the other player. So the player with the initiative is going to go first. One of the things you can do is play a card. Now, when you play a card, it's going to tell you where you can play it. Like this says it's a unit and it's ground. Now, I'm going to put it in the ground units area, and normally speaking, ground units can only attack other units, other ground units from the other player. Space units, which is over here to the left that you can't quite see yet. And so there's 2 sort of areas of combat that's going to be going on, space and ground. Now, if I play this card, a couple things. We know it's a ground unit. We see that it's going to have 1 attack and 4 defense. And we have an ability here. When played or on attack, I get to look at the top of my deck and then put it on the bottom of my deck. Otherwise, leave it on top, so I get to decide. Now, I can't play this for free. This one costs 1. Down here are the resources, so I can essentially exhaust one of these. That is 1. That costs me 1, and I get there. Now, when a unit comes in, it's going to come in exhausted, meaning it can't really do anything. And as I'll show you later, once the round's over, you're going to unexhaust and then you'll be able to attack with this. But it says when played or on attack, so I can do that. I get to look at the top of my deck and I have, hey, C-3PO. This one costs 2. I'm not going to be able to afford this round, but it's a lower cost card, probably good for me to keep because I'm going to be drawing from this deck in between rounds. Sometimes cards will allow me, abilities will allow me to draw cards and things like that. So it's one of the things you can do is play a card and they come in, units and stuff come in exhausted. Now let's just say it was the next round and I have this here and they have this ground unit there, and instead of playing with a card, I can attack with a unit. Of course, I would then do this ability and such. I would attack with this unit. Now, I can either decide to attack the base or another unit in the same spot. Again, ground versus ground, space versus space. So in this case, let's say I wanted to, now if I want to attack this, it would just do 1 damage to this base. But I want to attack this here. Now, so what happens is it happens simultaneously. So this 1 attack goes against this 1 defense. This 2 attack goes against this 4 defense. Now, of course, when you're attacking, you must exhaust. But what I've done is this one has done 2 damage here. So I have 2 here, 4. I've got 2 damage left. This one is dead because it's 1-1. This one's defeated. That is a keyword. And this would go defeated. And sometimes you'll, like, and this says when defeated. You may put this unit into play as a resource and ready it. So that's great. So instead of this normally going to the discard pile, it's going to go as a readied resource that they can use this round. Now let's pretend it's a future round. You can do actions. Certain cards have actions. This one says spend 1 resource, so I would have to exhaust 1 resource, and I can give a shield token to a unit that has this aspect. Aspects are important because this shows it here, this shows it here. So because this has that aspect, I can give a shield token that assumes that I've played this phase. Obviously I showed you earlier, but let's say we just played it this phase and we did this action. So I can put this here. Again, sometimes this is the shield token. So this says if damage will be dealt to this attached unit, prevent that damage. If you do, defeat the shield token on. So it doesn't matter how much damage this is taking, it would use the shield instead, for example. So that's, and again, you can use some of the premium tokens, but these cards that come in here, they're double-sided. That could be used as a shield. This could be used as experience, and that's a keyword that gives you like +1/+1. So sometimes you're playing a card, sometimes you're attacking, sometimes you're doing actions. Another thing you do is pass, and that just lets the other player play, and then you do it. But if you both successfully pass, then the round is over. But sometimes you want to pass to slow play things because you want to see what else happens before you play some cards. Another thing you can do is take the initiative token. Now this is kind of like passing, but you can't come back in the round. You're done. But you get the initiative counter. If you have it, you keep it. And if you don't have it, you take it from the other player. This allows you to go first next turn. You keep doing these things back and forth until both players have passed successfully, or one player takes the initiative and then the other player passes. That's the end of the round. First, you're going to draw 2 cards from your deck. Now again, you're not playing them all the time, so you're trying to plan back and forth here. You can take 1 card from your hand and put it in play face down as a resource. And then you're going to ready all the cards in play. So any exhausted cards are going to come in. So you're going to be drawing cards. You'll have cards in your hand already, and you're trying to decide, which ones you're going to be adding. So over the course of the game, you're going to be getting more resources, being able to play more powerful cards. That's pretty much how the game's played in a nutshell. Now let's talk about a few more things. Number 1 is each of the leaders have an epic action. So if you control 6 or more resources, you can, you can deploy this. So you would flip your leader over, and this is a ground unit, of course. And so Luke's going to go here, and now he has this 4 and 7. So on attack, you may give another unit a shield token. Now, so it's just like a normal unit now. But if this ever gets defeated, it comes back as this, and you cannot have it come back as a ground unit again. It's in this game. So that's a cool way that all the leaders should have this epic ability that you can flip them over and then use them as an actual unit. Now let's show you a couple other things. Sometimes you'll be playing cards just for events. Like this is an event, you spend 1, heal 3 damage from a unit or base. This goes to your discard pile. There's many events in the game. Sometimes you'll be playing upgrades. So it costs 2. You attach it to a non-vehicle unit. And then when played, if it's attached to Luke, heal all damage from him and give him a shield token. And so we could attach this to anyone, but if it's to Luke, it's better. And it gives him a +3 and a +1. Now you may notice some of these have this little diamond icon. Those are unique cards. You can have more than one of these in your deck, and some of them you will, but you can only have one of them out at once. Now let's talk about some keywords. Now you'll find some of these. There's actually a keyword glossary on the back of the rules. And so restores this. This says restore 2. When this unit attacks, heal 2 damage from your base. Sentinel, this one's really important, is the units in this arena, so ground or space, depending where it's at, in this case it's in ground, they can't attack your non-sentinel units or your base. So essentially your sentinel goes there and that's the person that's getting all attacks. It's used to sort of keep the fire off of others. We have Saboteur, and then when this unit attacks, you ignore Sentinel and defeat the defender's shields. So Saboteur is kind of a sneaky person that can get past the Sentinel. We have Raid 2, which basically gives it a +2 attack. Defense stays the same when attacking. And we have Ambush, and then so after you play this unit, you can ready an attack immediately. So it's sort of an ambush there. And just to show you, I haven't shown you really the space area over here. Space units, of course, these ones are space units, and you know, they're cool ships. Now I did want to show you a little bit of the Imperial deck. There's some cool events here. I Am Your Father deals 7 damage to an enemy unit unless its controller says no. If they do, you draw 3 cards. And then we have Overwhelming Barrage. This gives a friendly unit +2 attack, +2 defense for this phase. Then it deals damage equal to its power as divided as you choose among other players. So that's pretty cool. And then, so of course, this was the leader, Darth Vader, once it's flipped over. He's a 5/8, and on attack you can deal 2 damage to a unit. We have Vader's lightsaber, which again, can't attach to anyone, but if it's attached to Darth Vader, you deal 4 damage to another unit. So we have Stormtroopers, we have Emperor Palpatine, we have the walkers there, the ATST there. Emperor is really powerful. It's a 6/6, it costs 8 to come out. Overwhelm, this is a keyword I haven't talked about yet, that when you attack, the excess damage goes to the opponent's base, and then when played, 6 damage divided as you choose. So all sorts of stuff there. And of course, here's some space units from the Imperial side. You can pause here and read these. One last thing I wanted to mention is that earlier we talked about aspects and how some of these can trigger on certain cards. Now in the starter decks, your card, all the other cards will always have aspects that match in combination your base and or your leader. Now when you start building your deck, because there's lots of booster packs that you can buy, and they're random cards. I have done another video about these. I've actually opened 4 full booster packs that each have 16 cards and then went over them. But these booster packs sometimes will have, like if you want to put this one out there, this doesn't have an aspect. So in addition to the cost of 1, you have to cost an additional 2 for each aspect that you don't already have in your base or your leader. So as you're building decks with other things, sure, you could have cards that don't thematically match your side, but and even ones that do might not have the right aspect. So when picking your base and your leader, as you get more into the game, that's something to think about. But that's pretty much in a nutshell how you play Star Wars Unlimited. All right, now before I get started, I just released a video about the opening up booster packs and going over the different draft formats. So I'll put a link in there and you'll be able to click up there to see that video if you're interested. But let's talk about first what I liked about the game. I liked the ramping up of resources, generally speaking, where you're starting with two resources at the beginning of the game, and then each round you could add up to 1 there. And so what happens is there's the beginning of the game, you're playing cards that cost less, then in the middle of the game, you're playing cards that cost medium, and then towards the end of the game, you're playing these huge cards, maybe cost 9 or such or more. So I like that it sort of has an arc to the game of the different cards that you'll use in different conditions, depending on the part of the game. That really gives you some short, medium, and long-term planning. Not only when you're constructing your deck, which was a little bit more about what that other video was about, but also even just with the starter deck, you're going to have some different strategies of short-term tactical stuff, some more medium and some more long-term things that you're going to be having as you're, each round drawing 2 cards off your deck and things like that. Now, having the resources be cards, I think is my favorite part of this game, because it really creates some agonizing decisions as to which cards to burn as resources. Even at the beginning of the game, it's like, oh man, it's like, I don't want to get rid of this card. I want to use this. This is good, but I really need the resource. Tough choices to decide which cards that you're placing as resources, right? Because you're not getting to those. And knowing your deck well is really important to this, especially since sometimes you'll have like 3 copies of a certain card. Most of those, only one of those can be out at a time. So maybe, one's out, you got one, you can burn that resource. But most of the time, it's a really tough decision which thing to use. I like that. I like the timing of passing or taking the initiative. So it's like, hey, do I just soft pass and wait a little bit to see what they do and then come back in and do it? Or do I hard pass, take the initiative because I really want to go first next turn, And that timing of passing or taking the initiative of being out It's pretty interesting, especially since you can pass and come back in. There's some strategic slow playing reasons why you would want to do that, and I like that. I like the two different areas of combat, space and ground. It does seem like there's definitely more ground units than space units, but it's interesting where, you've got these two areas and it's like two different things you're fighting over, and it's interesting because sometimes you'll go heavy over here and you go, oh, they're over there. Well, if you're going to go over there, I'm going to go over here. Or you could say, oh, you're going to go there, I'm going to go there. Different strategies, and I like that. I liked that they sort of used the flow of Star Wars Destiny, which was a CCG that came out long ago before this. It's no longer supported, unfortunately, where like you're playing a card and then they're playing a card, or attacking, or passing and such, or using an action on a card. But you're going back and forth. And again, it's this push and pull of there's an ordering of when you want to do things, and some cards trigger off of other cards. And the flow of this was utilized a lot of how Star Wars Destiny was, and I loved that flow in Destiny, and I like that they used it here as well. Just the way that it flows, and the way that the round ends, and the way that you don't have to use all your cards, and you're kind of saving cards for later, but you're drawing cards at the end of the round. The flow I really liked here. I also like that your leader is there. It's got an action that you can do, but then if you get enough resources and such, you can unlock it, coming out as a unit, becoming super powerful. I like that idea too. That works really well. Next I'm going to go into some things I didn't like as much, and then I'm going to go into sort of comparing it a little bit with Star Wars Destiny, because it is the most recent Star Wars CCG that was very popular at a time. And spoiler that I absolutely loved Star Wars Destiny. So in this one, some of the negative things, I think the cards are definitely thinner than I'd like. This is a card game, you'll be playing them a lot, right? And so, but I think they know their audience, and I think they realize that most people that get into this heavily are going to be sleeving or double sleeving their cards. I mean, even the box says you can fit 60 double sleeved cards. They're expecting people to get aftermarket things like boxes and sleeves and do it. So the cards are thinner than I'd like, but I think most people are probably going to sleeve them. Again, the mass market box doesn't even close. It's just one of those ones that like hangs on those little things in the store, right? It's trying to attract people to get into the game. But again, most people are probably that get really into CCGs are gonna have binders and books and boxes, even these aftermarket boxes I showed you. I think they realize that the people that this would bother mostly are people that probably already have another system for it or will get one. But those are some negatives there. Also, it could be a little bit harder to pivot in this game than say Star Wars Destiny, because you've got you're planning things, you're putting units out and you're exhausting them, and with the resources, it comes to a point where it's like it's a little harder to just like go down a strategy and go, oh wait, oh crap, this just came out, let me just go here, than it was say like in Star Wars Destiny. So in Destiny there were dice, and a lot of people hated the dice. I actually liked the dice because A, it was more fun, B, it added sort of almost like sometimes a pressure luck aspect. But it added tactical changes where like, hey, I'm going to try to attack with this because most likely I'm going to get attacked. Oh crap, I didn't get attacked, but I got some resources. Oh, guess what? Now I've got enough resources that now I wasn't expecting to be able to play this card, and now I can play a card. And so like there was many more tactical changes. And again, I realized that a lot of people that I actually played Destiny with did not like it because of the dice. I thought it was great, especially how big and chunky they were, but it added a lot of more tactical and more reactions and more things to think about as things happened, where, I think Unlimited is a little more set in stone, it's a little more strategic, it's a little more less random. It's a card game, so everything's somewhat random, but it's less random and more planning, I'd say, than Destiny had planning, but it was also probably more of a tactical game, which I tend to like better. I like that you could discard cards and at the end of the round of Destiny to redraw back up to 5, and that's part of what I mean. Like earlier, I was just talking about like you can't pivot as fast in Unlimited, because in Destiny it's like, I've got these cards, I can discard them. I don't think I'm in a good spot to use these. These cards would have been better earlier. I'm going to redraw up to 5, right? And in Unlimited, you don't really have that. It's like you're holding cards, you're hoping to use them later, and then you're drawing 2 cards, right? So you can't quite, that's what I mean, you can't quite pivot as much, because you can't just like discard any amount of cards and draw up so you have a hand of 5 like you could in Destiny, which I really liked. It really allowed you to pivot in things. And I wish they kind of did that in Unlimited, because at the end, if you run out of your deck and you can't draw, you're doing damage to your base, so it still would hurt you Maybe not as bad as in Destiny, because I think at the end, if you can't play a card or whatever, like the game's over, right? So also in Destiny, like the resources didn't stack each round. Now it was a positive for Unlimited that I did like the arc it created as like smaller cards, medium cards, bigger cards as the game goes on. But one thing I really liked about Destiny is that because the resources didn't stack each round, because it's like, every round you're usually adding a resource, right, to Star Wars Unlimited. So after, 6 or 5 to 7 rounds, you've got 7 cards out there, depending on which card you've played. Some allow you to get more resources and stuff, right? And you're going to get that 9 card out at some point. It's just a matter of waiting. Where like some of the higher cost cards in Destiny is like, oh, I need 7. That's a lot. And like you're saving up these resources and you're rolling dice and getting more resources. You're playing cards that are getting you resources. And you think you're going to get it, but then something else happens and you play a card that's 3 and then they're like, well, I'm not really sure if I'm going to play this now. It gave me a lot more unassurity, but it made me have tough decisions where like here it's like the resources didn't stack in Destiny, and I liked that. Here in Unlimited, they stack, so it's like, again, it's better for those that want to plan a longer thing. I just thought it was less interesting and less sort of like ebb and flow of a game. It was like, I got a strategy, I'm going to go with that strategy, and I know I'm going to be able to play this card 2 rounds from now, right? You didn't always know that in Destiny, and I kind of liked that. The last thing is, in Destiny, cards came in ready, and I know that like most of the popular CCGs out there, cards come in exhausted and you can't use them that round, and that's just to let people know what you're doing, to give people more planning. I think most of the actual hardcore CCG players like that better. I don't. I actually liked in Destiny's, like I bring a card in, I can use it right away. To me, that was more exciting. So when it comes down to it, I think people that are into Star Wars and if you're into CCGs, you're probably going to like this. And my opinion from talking with people that have played both, most people I think are going to like Unlimited better, although there were a lot of people that I talked to that also really liked Destiny's. It tended to be very polarizing because of the dice. People either loved it or hated it. I loved it. And this Unlimited, I liked. But if I'm going to play a Star Wars CCG, even though it's not supported, I have so much Destiny stuff that I could just play and mix up a bunch of cards, do some drafts, and do all that sort of stuff. For me, I'm still, if I had a choice between the two, I'm going to play Star Wars Destiny, and for all the reasons I mentioned. But I have a feeling that I might be in the minority here, that most people I think will like the longer planning and the arc and things like that and Unlimited better and without the dice. So that's what I think about Star Wars Unlimited, kind of versus Star Wars Destiny. This has been the Game Boy Geek, breaking down barriers, growing relationships to board games by helping you on the next one you'll love. Game Toppers upgrades every game you play, and if you missed their 4.0 Kickstarter, you can still late pledge and take advantage of over 40 unlocked stretch goals and early fulfillment. This campaign featured a new Young Sherlock table, perfect for children's gaming, and movable coffee table, 10 new thematic mats by top artists like Vincent Dutray, a new designer art series Minecraft topper with thematic art from Brent Woodside, and some of the best package deals they've had, including game mat bundles. Go to GameToppersLLC.com or click the link below to late pledge now.